worst time in the afternoon to speak, right after lunch. Everyone's sleeping, so wake up. I'm going to speak about, first of all, just by show of hands, who here is an investor? Who here is a startup? Investors? Startups? Startups. I'm talking to startups. Okay, just making sure. I'm going to speak a little bit about how you market yourself on the web today. The truth is, it's really, there's a lot in common between, again, investors and startups in the way of what to do and what not to do on the web. And really, at the end of the 45 minutes, hour presentation, I want to sum it up in 2 words. How you market yourself in 2 words. I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts by the end of what those 2 words are, but let me start with a little story. Has anybody ever heard of the name Gary Vaynerchuk? Raise your hand. 2, 3, 4. All right, so first of all, everyone here, after this, please YouTube Gary Vaynerchuk. And I promise you, you will cry from inspiration. Mark my words. Gary Vaynerchuk's a Jewish guy who came to the States from Russia at a very young age. And he tells the story, he had entrepreneurship running through his blood. What does that mean? He would go into his neighbor's backyard, pick a flower, knock on their door and sell them the flower. He would sell baseball cards. He had a whole business of baseball cards, and he had milk delivery and whatnot. He was a real entrepreneur from a very young age. And his dad opened up a wine store in New Jersey called Wine Library. And Gary tells the story. He would see his dad going into work every day and working his butt off, making minimum wage. He didn't have the culture. He didn't have the language. He didn't have the connection. There was really no way he was going to make it in his business. And Gary thought to himself, there has to be a better way. There just has to be a better way. I mean, this guy, he's a passionate guy. He loves the product. He loves wine. He should succeed, but this is not the way to do it. And so he literally took this wine library store and he put it on YouTube. He called it Wine Library TV. Within 3 years, he hit $80 million revenue and the business exploded. Gary was the first person to ever prove the famous question about social media. What is the ROI of social media? Right? Everyone's familiar with the question, right? You're on Twitter, you're talking, you're engaging, but is it really selling products? I mean, as a corporate, or as a VC, or as an angel, or as a startup, should I really waste resources, the little resources that I have on Twitter, or on Facebook, on all these platforms, or should I go in, traditional advertising, PPC, SEO, sales? Not that they're all mutually exclusive, but that's the famous question, what's the ROI? And he proved for the first time that there is ROI in social media and revenue and numbers, not brand awareness and all that blah blah. He actually proved there's real sales opportunities here. And so after he did that, all the leading brands in the world wanted to hire Gary Vaynerchuk for social media. And when he came to Israel to speak a few years ago, I went to hear him speak, and he told an amazing story that really summed up this whole buzzword or buzz phrase that we call social media. He tells the story that he went to Pepsi to pitch his services to Pepsi, to convince them that they should hire him for Twitter. And that day, he got lucky. There was a new VP that day, and it was a woman, she said to him, what's the ROI of social media? So he started taking out charts, brand awareness, brand loyalty, branding, blah, 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 blah. And she said, buddy, I'm VP of Pepsi. I need to sell Pepsi. Don't give me this BS about branding. How do I sell more Pepsi than Coke? Right now, I could either take my $10 million of marketing budget and buy, a billboard on the expressway, or an ad in the New York Times, or I could pay you to BS on Twitter all day long. So again, he tried to talk to her about the whole branding. She wasn't buying it, and he realized, he tells the story, he says, I knew I had 30 seconds to get through to this woman, or I was out of there. There was no way that I was going to talk to her about brand awareness and all that stuff. She wasn't buying it. We were talking different languages. So he took a step back, he took a deep breath, and he went for it. He said, I went for the shock factor. And remember, the scenario is top-level executives in a room here with Gary Vaynerchuk, this little punk. And he looks her in the face and he says, what's the ROI of your mom? Got a little awkward there for a second in the room. And then he said, but relax, I'm not making a mom joke. Let me explain. He looks her in the eye and he says to her, when you're growing up, and your mom looks you in the eye and tells you you're beautiful, or when you scrape your knee in school and your mom says, don't worry, it'll be okay, or you lose a baseball game and your mom says, you'll win next time. He says, can you quantify the value of those statements? Can you say, when I was 6 years old, my mom told me I was beautiful, so when I was 18, I founded a company, that when I was 21, I sold and I made an exit, etc., etc. Can you quantify, can you make that connection? Obviously not. But anybody with a half a brain and basic understanding of human psychology, right, understands that those statements that your mother told you you're beautiful growing up build your self-esteem, they build your identity, they build you as a person. You You can't quantify them. You can't put them in numbers, but they're tremendously valuable. Just because I can't quantify what I'm doing on Twitter when I'm BSing and engaging with my target audience and not target audience does not mean that it's not valuable. He got Pepsi. The rest is history. Anyway, back to Gary Vaynerchuk's wine venture. When the first person came into the YouTube channel and bought $10,000 worth of wine, Gary did something very interesting. He thanked him, sold him the wine happily, and then he opened the guy's Twitter account. He followed the guy on Twitter for 2 weeks. And it turns out this guy is an insane fan of the New York Giants. He loves the New York Giants. And he loves a specific player on the New York Giants. And he would always talk about this player on Twitter, and he was obsessed. Gary Vaynerchuk then opens up eBay.com. He buys the shirt, the jersey of that player for $80, signed by that player. For $80, that's all it cost him. And he sent it to the guy. The guy sent him back a video with tears coming down his face saying, I will never, till the day I die, buy a bottle of wine from another company ever again. That's Gary Vaynerchuk. Now, why am I telling you this story? When it comes to social, and I'm not a big fan of the phrase social media for one very specific reason. If you take a step back from the buzz that everyone talks about social media and you just analyze the phrase for 1 second, there's a inherent paradox here. Social means two-way, right? Social means two-way street. Media, broadcast. They don't go together. There's a problem. The phrase is, in my opinion, fundamentally flawed. So put that aside for 1 second. Forget social media. Let's talk about the way you market yourself on the web today and what you're going to get out of it. So yeah, you can measure conversions. You can measure funnels, and you can do all the stuff you do with PPC and SEO and traditional marketing. That's fine. That works. That's measurable. There are companies in Israel. There's Trax. There's Radian6. There's ways to measure this. But if you're measuring it, you're doing something wrong. If you're measuring it in that way, in the traditional way, you're doing something wrong. Why? What he created with that guy who was crying over the wine was an emotional connection that traditional media, traditional marketing can never even, forget achieve. They don't even know how to deal with that. I mean, if you're driving on the highway and you see a billboard for whatever it is, Sony, best case scenario, right? Sony's biggest dream is to convert you. You become a customer. What happens tomorrow when Toshiba calls you and says, you bought that Sony player for $99. I'll give it to you for $98. What do? You have no emotional connection to Sony. You converted, right? You became a customer because you saw the ad. There's no emotional connection here. You have no problem leaving. There's no loyalty. This social thing that everyone talks about, this providing value on the web, connecting, engaging, communicating as a person with your target audience now and your potential target audience creates a brand loyalty and an emotional connection that traditional marketing just doesn't know how to achieve. Now I'll tell you a story about myself. Forget Gary Vaynerchuk, right? A few weeks ago I'm sitting at my office and I was working for a startup, and it doesn't even matter what the startup does, but I get a tweet to the company account saying, in caps lock, publicly, has anybody ever used your product? This guy was pissed off, right? Let's just say it as it. He was angry. So I responded publicly, and by the way, everything I'm saying has a flip side, right? Social, it's the amplification is endless, right? On the other hand, the amplification is endless. So if you make a mistake, we all know the stories. So I responded. I thought for a second, and I responded in real time, and I said to him, sure, what seems to be the problem? When I say I mean the company, right? I'm writing from the company's Twitter account. I said, sure, what seems to be the problem? He writes me back, I've been trying to use your product for 3 months and I can't get it to work. I said, okay, my email is X. Please send me details. Let's figure it out. I gave my personal email publicly, okay? Well, it wasn't my business email. 2 minutes later, I had an email in my inbox explaining what the problem was, a very detailed explanation, screenshots and everything. It happened to have been a very simple problem to solve. He just wasn't doing something right. Again, irrelevant what it was. I responded back to him. He responded back. Maybe he had 10 minutes of ping pong back and forth. He then opens his Twitter account to his 50,000 followers and he writes, Dear, name of company, you are my hero. Now again, let's just take a step back and analyze what happened here. What happened here was not that I converted a user. This guy didn't just know of our company or not know of our company. He was angry. He was a hater. He hated our brand. He was angry at our brand. He had a negative sentiment towards our brand. We were talking about sentiment before. He had a negative sentiment towards our brand. I didn't just convert him. I turned him into our ambassador in 10 minutes with no effort and no money put into it. All I did was answer him. All I did was listen and answer. That's it. That cannot be achieved with a billboard on the highway or an ad in the New York Times or any other sort of traditional marketing. Now let's drill down a little bit. It doesn't matter if you're a startup, if you're an investor, or really truly anyone else. It really doesn't matter. Today on the web, push marketing, or today not only the web, generally, push marketing, talking about yourself, saying how great you are, use our product, it doesn't work. I'm sure everyone here has gotten, please like my page on Facebook, retweet my stuff. it's ineffective. It's just ineffective. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable. And even if you do that friend a favor and like their page or share their blog post, how far is that going to go, right? We're not going to talk about, drill down on why that's ineffective, but if you think about what you're really doing here, everyone that sees that you liked, your friend's ballet page understands that you didn't do it because you truly like their business, right? So it's not worth anything. The point is to provide value on the web. Now, how do you provide value on the web? There are many ways to provide value, but I'm a big believer in content. Now, content could be video, content could be text, but every startup, I'm a firm believer, and I'll tell you a story to back this up. I'm a firm believer that every single startup, without exception, and possibly every human being on the planet should have a blog. That blog doesn't have to be, again, TechCrunch, doesn't have to be 50 posts a day, but it should be your voice to the world. It should be your business card, right? Today, if you think about it objectively, the fact that we're giving out business cards is kind of absurd. A business card, 3 lines tells my story, or anybody's story. Your voice, your content, your value on the web tells your story in a much more effective way. When I came to the company that I'm working at right now, the CEO, who's a traditional marketing kind of guy, sat me down, and he said, we have to get to 10,000 customers in 2011. How are you going to do that? And he expected me to say SEO and PPC and advertising and web advertising and traditional advertising and the rest of the tricks in the book. And I said, I'm going to start a blog. And he looked at me like I was nuts. What do you mean you're going to start a blog? And I said, not only am I going to start a blog, but on this blog of the company, I'm not even going to talk about the company at all. Never going to talk about us. And the guy was ready to kick me out of his office on the first day of work. He was ready. I said, listen, give me 4 months. That's all I need, 4 months. Worst comes to worst, you lost 4 months of salary. 4 months later, almost to the day, this blog that is a startup, belongs to a startup in Petah Tikva, right? We're not talking about Silicon Valley, was quoted on CNN Money as an authority in mobile advertising. Later on, now, a few years later, we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of readers. Our target audience, they're all reading in the blog. And again, a startup in Petah Tikva right now, fact, open up our Twitter account. Happy to talk to anyone after and give them the details to check and confirm what I'm saying. Today, on Twitter, open up this company's Twitter account, and we have more than double the amount of followers than any of our competitors, including companies that are owned by Google, like AdMob and AdMelt. We're in the mobile advertising space. And the reason is because we've not been spending the last 3 years talking about ourselves. Nobody wants to hear you talk about yourself. It's boring, it's overdone, and it's kind of annoying. But if you provide value and you write good content, that person knows that if he comes to your blog, your company blog today, he's going to read something interesting that appeals to them. And if he comes tomorrow, he'll find, again, unique content that applies to them, that interests them, and it's written in an appealing and engaging way. They create an emotional connection with your brand that, yes, in the end, it turns into conversions. And I understand that if you're a CEO, for an investor, or anybody else, it's hard to say, I'm going to spend resources on, blogging. I need ROI, right? You need revenue in the company. I completely understand that. Having said that, long term, the ROI is stupendous. And I'll give you another story. A few months ago, I went with a startup to TechCrunch Disrupt. I'm sure you've heard of TechCrunch Disrupt. It's probably the leading tech event in the world on an annual basis. And the way it works is there's the Battlefield, which is a huge stage on which Mark Zuckerberg and Marissa Mayer and all the other biggest names you can imagine are judges. And then there's the Startup Alley, which is 100 startups, everyone competing for one spot. One spot. One startup out of those 100 get on stage. One. 2 weeks before the competition, a CEO of a company that I'm working with said to me, we need to go to TechCrunch Disrupt. I said, what do you mean? You don't go to TechCrunch Disrupt in 2 weeks. You prepare for years in advance sometimes. You bring tens of thousands of dollars of budget for swag and for impressing people. What are we doing? He said, we got to go to TechCrunch Disrupt. I said, okay. Went to TechCrunch Disrupt, and the night before the event, he sits me down and he says, listen, you're an advisor. I don't quantify what you do here, right? But I'm giving you one quantifiable goal. Get us on stage. I said, dude, really, let's be honest here. We came with zero budget. We didn't even prepare our pitch. We're telling different, there's no way, really. As much as I appreciate what I'm able to do and my capabilities, there's no way. He said, this isn't up for discussion. Get us on stage. All right, so I said, I'll give it my all. So I go to the conference the next day, and I'm doing what I do and working the floor and trying to pitch and this and that. By the end of the day, something very interesting became apparent to me. How does this one startup get selected? The TechCrunch writers select it. The writers who write the content on TechCrunch choose that one startup. What was also interesting to me is the TechCrunch writers, who I've met for the first time, but who I communicated with for years on Twitter, are my friends. And I'm saying friends, I never met them before, but more importantly, they've been reading my blog for 7 years every day religiously. So when it came time to give back, right? Hillel is not another startup, pitching his thing and annoying us. He's a guy who's been providing value to me on a daily basis for the past 7 years and not asking for anything in return. Not asking, just giving. Now it's time to give back. We got on stage, we got off stage, and VCs basically threw their money at us, and that's how the company launched. All from writing a blog. There's nothing else to it. There's no tricks up my sleeve. And again, now, 7 years later, after I've been investing time on Twitter and Google Plus and all, now I have tens of thousands. When I started, I was like anybody else. I had 0 followers, and I just spent time every day, no matter what, consistently. Not once a week and not once a month, but every day. If I get home at night and I didn't write a blog post somewhere, I'm personally depressed. Producing content as often and as high quality as I possibly can. Now, I mean, as a company, there's a lot of different platforms. Where do you spend your time? These are all good questions. I'm happy to talk to anyone after and meet up if you want to talk about these things. But I mean, with Twitter, contrary to what people believe, I think what sums up Twitter in one kind of catchphrase is you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that ratio. Listening. Twitter is, in my opinion, fundamentally a listening platform. There is no more effective platform in real time to monitoring competition, to monitoring the news in your space, everything that happens, funding, whatever it is in your space, everything you need to know, Twitter, real time. The power of Twitter, I think, who here's on Twitter? Raise your hand. Seriously? You guys aren't on Twitter? Really? Who here has a blog? Wow. I got to do something about this. No, seriously speaking, I mean, there's really no excuse today, and no matter where you are and what you're doing, and what you're hoping to accomplish, to not be on Twitter. I mean, anybody you want to engage with, period, is on Twitter. I mean, I could just, again, a personal story, a crazy story, but, these things happen on a daily basis on Twitter. I went with my wife to San Francisco a few months ago. We stopped off in Italy, I believe. In the airport, there was an electronics store. There was a Bose stand, Bose, the headphones company, in the middle of the store. We had a few hours to kill. So I put on these Bose earphones, these noise-canceling earphones. I don't know if anybody's ever tried these things, but they're mind-boggling. You don't hear a thing. It's like you're on a secluded island. And I was drooling. I said to my wife, I'm buying these. She said, you don't even listen to music. $350? Are you insane? So she vetoed that. I got on the plane. The guy sitting next to me, we're about to take off. He puts on his Bose earphones. I said, it's a sign. I got to buy these earphones. She said, you're not buying the earphones. Fine. I gave up on that idea. I landed in Israel after the trip, and obviously the first thing I did was I opened Twitter, and I said, I just tried these Bose Q15 noise-canceling headphones. They're amazing. I would love to try them. 24 hours later, I had a knock at my door. FedEx, this is from Bose. They gave it to me. That blew me away. It wasn't the first or the last time. I want to explain. I'm not naive to say that any person who just tweets, I want earphones, Bose is going to send them earphones, right? They're smart. They see this guy has a following. That's fine. But I'm not impressed with the fact that they sent it. They were not following me on Twitter. What they were doing was they were searching Twitter for certain keywords. Maybe it was headphones. I don't know what it was. But they caught on to that tweet. I tweeted it publicly. I was not on their radar at all. But that tweet made their radar because they were searching for words to attract conversions. Now, again, I talked about, that guy saying he'll never buy wine again. Till the day I die, I will never, ever, and I've since then bought Bose products, but I will never buy another, not because they happen to be an awesome product, but not because of that. Because of the fact that they listened and they heard. I bought a house a few months ago. The first thing I did was I opened Twitter. Really, honestly, genuinely, not because I thought this would do anything, just because I like to share. I overshare. I'm a little bit nuts. I share too much. I tweet 80 times a day. But I tweeted and I said, I just bought a house. I really need to get a shed. Any recommendations? Keter, Israeli, not Bose Global. Keter Israeli, the plastic company, sent me a 4,000 shekel shed. Without asking any questions. They didn't ask me to do anything, by the way. Of course, the first thing I did was I blogged about them, right? But they didn't ask for it. Had they asked for it, by the way, it might have left a little bit bad taste in my mouth. Oh, you're giving me something, you're bribing me, right? They didn't ask me. They just said, here, no questions asked. We heard your tweet, not because they were following me. They weren't following me. It has nothing to do with how many followers I have, right? Maybe they sent it because they have a big audience, but they heard me just because I said it. They are monitoring their brand. They're monitoring keywords on Twitter in real time. Someone mentions the word shed, Keter will hear them, period. The people and the companies and the organizations and in general, the entities that you can communicate with on Twitter are mind-boggling. People that you would never imagine that you can ever communicate with or connect with, they're right there. You can just talk to them, no problem. And not saying everyone will answer, but they'll hear you because that's how Twitter works. I think everyone understands the strength and the power of Twitter. I'm going to knock you off your seats a little bit and talk about something that most of you are probably going to laugh a little bit about. Maybe inside you don't want to make me feel bad, but Google Plus. Anybody here active on Google Plus? No, 2 people. All right. In a year from now, if I stand here and ask you that question, every single person's hand in this room will be up. I promise you that. Why? I'm not even going to talk about the engagement on Google Plus for 1 second. We'll talk about that in a second. Google is putting all their eggs in that basket. Google is saying, if you want to get ahead on the web, you need to be on Google Plus. You want to review an Android app, you got to be on Google Plus. You want to be a top on SEO results on Google? I don't need to tell anybody the power of Google in terms of search. You need to be on Google Plus. Google Plus results is up on top. Now, people complain about that. Gmail users are now Google Plus users. Google's doing everything. They're pushing with all their might. You want to fight Google? Go ahead. I wouldn't recommend it. But all that aside, I'm not going to talk about how they're bullying everyone to using Google Plus. On a personal level, on a daily basis, I share something on Twitter, I share something on Facebook, and I share something on Google Plus. On Twitter, I'll get 50 retweets, whatever, some mentions, some answers. Facebook, I'll get, again, 50, 70, 100 comments, max. Google Plus, on a daily basis, this happens. 2,500 shares, 3,000 plus ones. The engagement on Google Plus is insane. There's no other word for it. Now, here's the thing. Just like every other platform, you don't put something into it, you're not going to get something out of it. Talking on Google Plus without circling people, or talking on Twitter without following people and having them follow you back is literally, I'm not talking about it, metaphorically now, literally, like standing in an empty room and screaming. No one's listening to you because no one's following you, because you're not giving them a reason to follow you. Give people a reason to connect with your brand. How do you do that? By providing value. That's it. Build it. If you build it, you guys know the movie, they will come. It's a fact. It happens. It's long term, right? It doesn't happen overnight. You can't put an ad, again, a billboard or anything else and sit there and, how do you measure billboards today? I mean, if you think about it, it's absurd. These are guys saying that, you ever see this guy clicking 1 car, 2 car, 3 car? This is what we're doing in 2014. Like, people aren't looking at billboards. Stop at a red light and look next, right and left and see who's looking at it. No one's even looking at the road. They're looking at their phones. And you're spending money on billboards? I mean, really? So the point is, you need to be there on all these platforms, or in as many of them as you can. And listen, I was working with a startup a few weeks ago. This is a true story. It blew me away. Young startup, pre-launch, pre-funding, and they're bootstrapping. And I was sitting with 3 of the founders, or three of the people on the team, 3 of the members, and I said to them, all right, what's your roles? First person says, I'm CEO. Second person says, I'm a social media listener. Third person says, I'm a social media broadcaster. True story. Now that's a little bit nuts. A little bit nuts. A little bit extreme. And I understand the resource issue, and not everyone can have 2 people for social media. It's a little bit nuts. In an ideal world, though, the new competitive landscape where everybody here understands the importance of knowing your competition and who's out there, Twitter. There's nothing else to it. Google Plus, real time, you can engage with everyone there. I mean, top-level Google executives will answer you in 2 seconds on a daily basis. I'll post something on Google. I'll give product feedback. I'm not a product guy, but I use it. So I said, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. I'll get an answer from Vic Dundatros, a senior VP engineering at Google. 2 seconds later, he answers me. I mean, just, as a blogger, one of the things that I decided to do was connect to these people and interview them. Not for any reason, not because it's going to help me, whatever, just because I want to interview these people. These guys are changing the world. I want to understand, what's going through their head. So I made it a thing. I decided I'm going to start interviewing people. And I just reached out to people like Vic Dundatros, like Gary Vaynerchuk, like Guy Kawasaki, and Alyssa Milano, who's an actress you might remember from Who's the Boss. She's a big geek now. I don't know why she follows me on Twitter, but it's interesting. They agreed to, why not? Sure, we follow you on Twitter. You're providing content on a regular basis. You're not spamming and promoting yourself all day long. You're providing value. You're giving us a reason to engage with you. Of course, why not? What do I care to interview? So I built a list of like 50 of the legendary people in the industry that I, in a million years, would never have thought that I'd be able to even talk to. Guys like Guy Kawasaki, who literally single-handedly made Apple. I mean, Apple was a nerdy company before, Guy Kawasaki came around and evangelized the company. I just interviewed him on my blog, a guy from Beit Shemesh. I was like, who the hell am I? But to me, you can just engage with anyone. On Facebook, you ask 5 marketers, you'll get 6 opinions. But in my humble opinion, Facebook as an advertising platform, I'm differentiating between advertising and marketing, okay? As an advertising platform, whether to drive downloads, conversions, sales, whatever it is you're trying to advertise, is a phenomenal, maybe the best. For app developers, there's nothing like Facebook. You can use Tapjoy and buy downloads. Facebook is the most effective. Everyone will tell you that. As a marketing platform, it's fundamentally flawed, in my opinion, because I'm sure everyone here has seen in their feed, please like my page, right? Someone on their page, this happens all the time. I literally don't know whether to laugh or cry. Someone on their Facebook page, a company, on their Facebook page writes, please like my page. Have you seen this? You've seen this, right? Who are they talking to? Who sees that message? People that already like the page. Otherwise, I wouldn't see it in my feed. You understand what I'm saying? If someone likes a page, then you see the posts. So if I'm asking you to like my page on my Facebook page, you're going to see it if you already liked it. If you didn't already like it, you won't see it. So there's basically no way to acquire new users unless, yes, there's viral content and you're expecting someone to share. Those numbers are way, way down. People, there are shares, but likes and all these things are much more viral. And you'll see your friend liked it, but it's ineffective in acquiring new. And that's the reason, by the way, that all these people are asking you to like their page, because there's really no other way to get all the likes. In addition to that, the correlation between likes on Facebook and actual engagement is close to nothing. I mean, I've done extensive research on this. I can show you hundreds of companies that have 500,000 likes and 5 comments on each post. And I'll show you another company that has 50 likes and 100 comments on each post. Likes are an ineffective way of really measuring engagement. So I'm going to put Facebook aside. But when it comes to Twitter, I would spend, in terms of the social budget, Twitter is by far the most effective, and after that, Google+. But again, all these things are a nice layer on top of the fundamental building block of this thing called your social media, whatever you want to call it, strategy or whatever you want to call it. The building block is content. That content could be video, it could be a blog, it could be whatever you want it to be. But the goal of providing content is one. The goal is to be a thought leader and to own your space on the internet. When someone thinks X, they think you. Whether you're an investor, look at the big investors today, right? Andreessen Horowitz, Fred Wilson, these guys are full-on competing with TechCrunch. Fred Wilson, if you're an entrepreneur today, you cannot afford not to read Fred Wilson's blog. He's full-on competitor with the biggest tech blogs out there. Why is he doing that? Is he making ROI? Maybe he'll get some more deal flow, I don't know. But it's about him owning, it's about thought leadership and owning the space. And that's what really every person, whatever they're doing, but especially if you're in the commercial space, if you're a startup or an investor, it's very important to brand yourself through content. And again, not about yourself. It's so easy to fall into that trap and talk about yourself all day long. And 90% of the startups that I meet and I read out there are doing that. You open their blog and it's me. No one's reading that. That's not interesting to anyone. If you have a product announcement, it's no problem using your platform and leveraging it, the reader base that you've built to announce products. But 9 out of 10 or 19 out of 20 posts on your company blog should be about the industry. Now, what does that mean? If we'll drill down one more level, whatever your industry is, it doesn't matter. You don't want to just attract your target audience. You don't want to, if I'm selling chairs, so my goal should be to own chairs. I want to be the Google of chairs. Really, it sounds funny, but that's what you should be. And by the way, if you're not competing with if you're not a photo sharing app or a social network, you're in good shape, because most people don't get what I'm telling you right now. You have an open space to just take it, own it, write content for the next X amount of time, get up there on SEO, get up on branding. When people think about chairs, they'll think about you. That is the goal. But again, as a CEO, it's a hard thing to swallow. I'm going to pay you a salary and I'm not going to see ROI till who knows when. It's not so simple. It's by far the best ROI you'll ever get as a company, as a brand, in the long term. It's no longer a luxury. You need to be there because your competitors are there and they're acquiring users left and right. And there are endless stories about, I don't need to tell you the big success stories, the Old Spices of the world, but you guys all remember the plane that landed on the Hudson? Remember that plane crash? The guy who was part of the rescue team. He was an anonymous guy, no one heard of him, he didn't have a lot of followers or anything. He took out his iPhone, he took a picture of the plane on the Hudson. That picture, just from Twitter, he just tweeted that picture. He didn't do anything with it. Put it on Twitter. That picture had 90 million views before CNN knew about the plane crash. You understand what I just said? Forget everything you know about news. CNN, the breaking news of the world, didn't know about the plane crash before 90 million people knew about it on Twitter. If that doesn't say it all, you can reach anybody in this room. Literally, we're not talking about big. Anybody in this room can literally reach anybody in the world, in their space, the leaders of the space. I don't care if you're in acting, you want to reach an actress. I don't care if you're an athlete, you want to reach NBA players. They're all accessible. They're all there. You need to be there. You can't afford not to be there. Any questions? Come on. Seriously, people. Yeah.
You said you were writing a blog on a daily basis. You're tweeting.
How do I do it all?
What do you have to say?
You sitting down? I got 5 kids, too. True story.
What do you have to say?
I'll tell you the answer. I'll tell you the answer. If you're asking that question, I don't know. What do? You have a startup? Do you love your startup? You sure about that? You sure? Is it your passion? If you're asking that question, there's something wrong. I'll be honest with you. I spend 21, 22 hours, I don't sleep, not because I'm forcing myself because I have to work so hard, but I love this stuff. This is my passion. I love tech. I cannot sleep for 3 days just because I'm consuming tech content because I love this stuff. Literally, I wake up every morning at 4:30 in the morning, I just sit there consuming tech because I love it. If you're truly, truly passionate about what you're doing, number one, writing content won't be an issue. Whether you have the English or not, hire someone with English, but I'm saying the tone of what you're writing, your passion needs to come through in that content. And if you're passionate, then it will. And if you're not, stop what you're doing. Don't do it, because you're not going to get anywhere, right? You need to find the time. Because,
you need to do something, write something interesting, something new.
Yeah.
On a daily basis.
Right. So the answer is, it's a good question. I mean, I don't have a magical or whatever, but the answer is, and not every post has to be a 2,000-word analytical post about the industry. Some might be a video that you saw in your space and a 100-word blurb about it. Take you 15 minutes to write. Some might be 200 words or 500 words talking about where the industry is going. Some might be 2,000. But realistically speaking, you get started, which by the way is the hardest part, but I strongly recommend that you get over that and just start. Open WordPress, start a blog, forget the design, forget it, just puke content on the page. Just write like no one's reading and like everyone's reading. Just write, okay? But the answer is, after X amount of time, I'm not going to give you a number, but X amount of time, like everything in life, you start doing it, you get used to it, and I write every day. I spend half an hour on it. Sometimes I'll spend 3 hours on it. But the point is, the research part, in theory, should not be something that takes you 4 hours because this is your baby. You know this space, right? You own it. So you know the competitors, and if you don't, again, stop what you're doing and learn them. You need to just puke that content, that the information you have in your head, you need to have in your head, put it on the page. I'm not talking about confidential things, right? But everything you have in your head stored up there, put it out there for people to consume and to engage with your brand, to connect with you on a level that all these other SEO and PPC and all these things, which by the way, I definitely think a startup and generally companies should leverage. I'm not saying they're mutually exclusive. Let me just be very clear here. Those things are great for customer acquisition. Social is not a customer acquisition platform. Customer acquisition will be a perk of social. But if you're providing content, you're creating a brand loyalty that people will emotionally connect with your brand that no other platform can ever accomplish or even dream of accomplishing. That's it. You guys need to wake up. Come on, somebody ask a question. 5 seconds or 5 minutes? 5 minutes. Okay. I mean, I got a lot more where that came from. But nobody has any questions? Jeez, people. Hey, Yirmi, no questions? Yeah. Shefa, Avi. There you go.
So you're saying most people don't know this, and you're saying that G Plus is taking over, becoming a real player in the market.
Yeah.
So what everyone knows Facebook, their Facebook strategy. I mean, if you open up their page and their thing, is G Plus the same thing, just a different platform?
I mean, every platform has its unique characteristics about signing up and using it. The fundamental principle, underlying principle of all these, like I said before, is if you're not giving me a reason to connect and you're not circling people or following people or connecting people on whatever platform, then you're yelling in an empty room. So the answer is yes. If you go to Google Plus, you open it and you put something on Google Plus and no one answers, yeah, it's a ghost town, like everyone says. But if you're there and circling the right people and connecting with those people, the engagement is through the sky. And Google, I mean, they have their ways. I don't need to tell you how powerful Google is. They're doing everything. They're putting the infrastructure in place, I mean, to make things go psycho-viral. I mean, it's happened to me. It's happened to everyone I know that's really active on Google+. Way more viral than Twitter and Facebook, by the way. But it takes effort. It's not as easy to set up as Facebook. You don't just get in there and boom, boom, boom. You find your high school friends. No, it's a new platform. But you know, at the end of the day, I'll be with you 1 second, Chef. This is the interesting thing. A lot of people complain. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but tons of people complain that, oh yeah, I'm not a Google Plus user, but Google made me into a Google Plus user because I use Gmail. You've heard this before? Like, well, I'm not a Google Plus. Why am I getting Google Plus notifications? The answer is, listen, man, you're using Google products, Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Maps. You don't like that Google put another layer on top of all of them, social? For a refund, go ahead, use Hotmail. That's the answer, really. I mean, it's kind of humorous that people you're using unbelievably innovative technology on a daily basis that you're not paying for, and yet this is Google's strategy. They're not a nonprofit. Their strategy is to get in every aspect of your lives. They bought, Nest because they want to be in your home. You know, they're going everywhere. So social, I mean, they need to be in social. So they're not creating a standalone platform. They don't view themselves as a Facebook competitor. What they view themselves is a layer that ties all of their different portfolio products together. On top of Gmail, you're a Google+. On top of Android, you need to make a review, you need to be on Google+. On top of Google Calendar, Google+ integration. Everything across the Google line of products is tied together using this social, layer. And again, people don't like it, full refund. Yeah.
You've always said that you need to speak differently on the different platforms, right? You can't just have a cute picture and spread it.
Yeah.
10-second, how does Twitter, what makes it different?
Good question. So that was the next thing I was going to talk about is automation. A lot of people ask, I get this question 10 times a day. How do I automate my social media? How do I, like you asked for, how do you have time for it? How do I post the same thing on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+? My answer to that is don't. Just stop what you're doing. Close your computer, go home, and do something else. That's my answer to those people. Like, stop wasting your time. You want to spam your friends? Like, you have Twitter followers, you have Facebook friends, you have Google+ people. If they're the same people, then you're spamming them. And if they're not the same people, then you want to talk to them in different languages. Not everyone relates to the same thing. And I'll give you an example. Twitter is by definition textual based, right? It's a textual platform. It's 140 characters. They're trying to do all kinds of shtick to get the picture in the line. Forget that. It's not going to work, and it hasn't been working. And people don't engage. Fact. I will put a picture on Twitter. I will put a picture on Facebook and Google+, and the engagement will be different planets. People do not engage with pictures on Twitter. They engage with text. Facebook is very visual, and Google+ is off the charts visual. There's animated GIFs, video, inline, everything. So the point is use every platform differently and don't spam and cross-promote because it just doesn't work. Spiro.
You're not a big LinkedIn fan. So what, use LinkedIn?
Yeah, so good question. LinkedIn, in my experience, is contrary to what most people believe. I use it for totally different purposes. I have my LinkedIn connections and whatever it is. Personally, posting things on LinkedIn, posting things on LinkedIn gets X amount of traction, much less than the other ones. Where LinkedIn is a secret weapon that most people don't know about is if you're shooting content to the world and you want to get exposure and you want to get amplification, join relevant LinkedIn groups because those people are interested in that content, right? They're there because they like chairs. So share your post on chairs in the LinkedIn group. Not only will you get more traffic, but that traffic, time on page, and the quality of that traffic will far surpass any other platform. Far surpass. When I share something on Twitter, my mom might be reading it. She's not my target audience. On LinkedIn, you're reaching your target audience. I use it differently than most people, but for a blogger, in terms of driving traffic, it's super effective.
Thank you very much.